this is the story that Kevin wants.
Yeah.
Then I want to talk to Kevin.
Let's talk about what's going on with She-Hulk Season 2. Patrick Klepek, I don't know what you thought about She-Hulk Season 1. I thought it was perfectly fine and also occasionally very bad. But, overall, like a pleasant experience, like unobjectionable. I will say that I did feel when I was watching it, boy, this feels like the juice was not worth the squeeze in terms of how much work seemed to be put into the show versus the results. And I think Tatiana Maslany might agree with me on that. What is this news that we heard about She-Hulk Season 2?
Yeah, Tatiana Maslany was on a recent Twitch game show, which that statement itself is like just an extremely funny. That makes a lot of sense, but it's just that's the world we live in now. As we are getting news about future Marvel productions, or potential news about future Marvel productions from appearances on a Twitch game show. But
I just want to say, Tatiana Maslany, if you're listening to this, you are always welcome to guest on Decoding TV. We'd love to have you.
Absolutely.
Anyway, we do not look down on Twitch game shows, but it is just, hey, this is a new world now where Twitch game shows can arguably quasi break news. So,
and I look, a huge extension of what I do for a living is people watching me on Twitch. So at no point am I denigrating anyone that watches or does anything on the service. But she was on there and was asked about the second season, and mentioned that I don't think we're coming back. I think we blew our budget. And Disney was like, no thanks. Which obviously, if you've watched anything that she does, she is consistently and constantly tongue in cheek, and also has a history of lying's a way of looking at it, but definitely is like willing to throw trolley bait into the culture because she knows it's gonna make people upset. Oh yeah, she at multiple times was throwing things about She-Hulk ahead of its premiere out there just to sort of mess with people. So there's a way of looking at this that a week from now we could get a series order for She-Hulk Season 2, and this was her just messing everyone ahead of that. But as you and I know from a lot of the reporting around the Disney Plus shows, Marvel in general, their production philosophy, their approach to sort of rejecting traditional TV, sort of coming up with show Bibles, having showrunners, writing all the episodes in advance, following sort of that traditional structure that has served TV well for many decades. Marvel has rejected that, and it's led to exceedingly bloated budgets with episodes of She-Hulk costing regularly on or around $25 million, which is a lot more than a Game of Thrones or The Mandalorian. Shows that I think most people would rightly look at as being having a larger scale or ambition in terms of battles was depicted on screen.
Not even that, Patrick Klepek, literally culture defining shows.
Absolutely.
That have
of course they cost a lot,
made an impact on culture and how art is made and what types of shows are made, and that people know all the references from or many of the references. She-Hulk consisted of 9 episodes in its first season and apparently cost $225 million total. Which, as you said, is probably about how much they would spend on an episode of... Actually, more than they would spend on an episode of Game of Thrones. Also, Game of Thrones has more episodes per season, and the episodes are longer.
And
so
the
question comes up, where did that budget go? And my sense is it went into rounds of review of them not knowing what kind of show they wanted to make. And so they'd have to go back to the drawing board and redo a bunch of visual effects. This is public reported stuff of how that show was made, and I think the results show it's not a cohesive show that really feels like it has a true vision. Anyway, go ahead, Patrick.
Well, I will push back a little bit. She-Hulk actually is one of my one of the Disney Plus MCU shows that I like more than most. It's definitely, I don't think it's as good as a WandaVision or Loki season 1, but I think I find her so effortlessly charming, and I still, at the end of the day, love the core conceit and think there's something in the course of those 9 episodes, which I don't think are incredibly strong, but I had a good time watching it. I enjoyed it. I was like, oh, by the end of this, I do feel like they're onto something here, that if this was given a chance to breathe in the way that any other comedy show, go watch the first seasons of most comedies. it takes a long time to figure out what's funny, what works about the character dynamics. That is at odds with an extremely expensive show full of visual effects that has to have a lot of pre or post-production done. And so maybe She-Hulk as a television show just does not work with the budget. Even if you were to get a more constrained budget, it wouldn't work. But I did think that show was onto something and could have been much more interesting in a like streamlined, focused season 2, where they had a better understanding of what worked and what didn't work. But even if she's out here throwing, bait to the trolls, I think there's every reason to expect that we probably wouldn't get a second season of that, especially after all the comments we've gotten from Bob Iger and all the sort of signals we've gotten from Disney and Marvel in general about, hey, like we're going to be sort of like doing some cost cutting. We're going to be a little more focused. We're going to be thinking through a little bit more of how we're doing these things. She-Hulk seems like it comes at this point from a different era of just, you can write whatever check you want. And of course it's going to be a hit. And of course it's going to be the biggest thing. And again, like I said, I think She-Hulk was better than many of the shows that showed up from Marvel on Disney Plus, but maybe not so much that it would necessarily necessitate, another couple $100 million on a second season.
Fair enough, Patrick Klepek. The one thing I will say I remember from that show is there is a famous tweet that I really like by Matthew Castle, who wrote, this was in December of 2021, so more than 2 years ago. He wrote, "My favorite bit of Marvel films is where you sit through 9 minutes of credits to watch a 5-second clip of some guy stepping through a doorway and saying, 'It's me, Blorko,'" end quote. And that is literally what happens at the end of She-Hulk episode 9 is Hulk's son shows up. It's Hulk's son, Scar. By the way, a fact that has never been followed up on any subsequent Marvel show or TV or a film.
Nope.
So I think you're right that many Marvel shows have suffered from competing priorities, and it feels like it suffers from competing priorities. That many Marvel shows feels like, oh, there is a good show in here that if they just leaned into the strengths and away from the stuff that makes it too Marvel-y, it could actually be really nice and pleasant. And it's honestly really a shame that that She-Hulk Attorney at Law couldn't be there. You could imagine a world where they decided to put Tatiana Maslany on stilts and put her in a Hulk suit, like Lou Ferrigno style. And then the show would have cost $20 million less per episode. And then maybe we would have a season 2 that would be, that would have time to find its own voice in a way that season 1 I don't think did. So, yeah. It's a shame, but it does seem as though She-Hulk season 2 is probably not going to happen. And I share your sadness that this is a show I think like had some good elements, but wasn't allowed to really lean into what made it work the best. Which were the kind of workplace fun thing, like having a kind of procedural. I think would have been really good for the Marvel universe, right?
A procedural is something that was explicitly comedic.
Yeah, like it's a case of the week with She-Hulk. That would have been a cool thing.
Exactly. And like Marvel stuff is frequently tongue in cheek and is taken a long time to find any way to distance itself from being so defined by Joss Whedon's writing style. And I guess that's part of what I found refreshing about She-Hulk was that it was explicitly an upfront comedic, and trying to find a way to do comedy in a way that didn't feel so Whedon-esque, in a way that has defined so much of Marvel ever since Whedon stepped in during the Avengers.
Hey everyone, David Chen here. Thank you so much for watching that video from Decoding TV. If you want to get an audio version of the show, all you got to do is go to podcast.decodingtv.com. And if you want to support what we do, get ad-free episodes of the podcast and also bonus episodes of the podcast, go to decodingtv.com and become a paid member. Of course, you can also like and subscribe for more. We appreciate it. Thanks. See you later.